Hello and welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemons, and this is our full breakdown for season 2 of Squid Game. Over the holiday break, I binged this show in one day because I'm a lunatic. Am I a lunatic like the recruiter? Absolutely not, but maybe close. And guess what? It made me just as mad as the first season did. What kind of cliffhanger is that? Squid Game season 2 is all around excellent. It brings back some great games. It feels like the world has just expanded and become much more significant, and the psychology of it all is just excellent. It's so interesting because it makes me crazy, but it also proves that y'all are crazy. So let's go through this show and spot all the details that you might have missed because there's a lot of weird, strange things that they wanted us to catch. But first, before we really get into it, make sure to check out nerdriot.shop where you can find the latest and greatest in New Rockstars merch. Right now, you can get our Justice and Punishment shirt because the Daredevil Born Again trailer just came out, and I know you want some merch for that show. Get some Midtown High merch for the Spider-Man fan in your life, and make sure you say goodbye to Skeleton Crew with some of our Neil shirt merch. I love Neil. I'll die for Neil. Go check out nerdriot.shop. It's the best way to support the channel. Okay, now let's get into this long-winded breakdown. Squid Game episode 1, titled Bread and Lottery, opens up where we last left off in season 1 with an incredible, vengeful main character, and I'm talking about Gi-yeon, played by Lee Jung-jae. At the airport, he was preparing to board a flight to the US to be with his daughter, who now resides in the US with her mother and new stepfather. His cell phone starts buzzing, and it's the front man, played by Lee Bung-young. We'll later see him as player 001, the brother of Junho, the cop who was searching for him last season. Interestingly, season 1 and season 2's first episode both have our main character bleeding out in a bathroom. In the first episode last season, it was him being jumped by a bunch of loan sharks threatening to cut into his nose, and now he's making the incision into his ear, dropping blood all over the place. It just feels a little too close to home. On the other side, Junho wakes up in the hospital after being shot by his brother last season. You remember all that. He fell into the sea, got picked up by a fisherman. Then we jump 2 years later to 2024. Fully healed now, he's a parking enforcer and catches someone riding their moped without a helmet. They have this little exchange with the person who won't stop flirting with him, and then the boyfriend speeds away yelling to be with her new pig boyfriend. When he runs into his old chief officer, they discuss the island from the last season where Squid Game takes place, and how now the precinct and the detectives didn't have enough evidence to do anything about it. After learning everything, especially that his brother became the bad guy, the uber bad guy, he decides to become a park enforcer instead because, you know, it's less lethal and also less injustice. Later that night, Gi-yoon watched a couple fight from his CCTV cameras outside the hotel. Someone rings the buzzer, and to his surprise, a card slides under the door, the Squid Game card. When the door opens, it's the front man holding the heads of Song-woo and Sa-byuk. He screams, shooting the front man, and then realizes it was all a nightmare. When he actually wakes up to the sound of buzzing, he checks the cameras and sees it's Kim, one of the loan sharks that found him on the racetrack last season. And I like that when he looks through the camera, he holds up the little heart sign. They keep doing this season, I love it. The two sit down and begin eating, and this base of operations is the Pink Motel. It's completely pinked out with pink furniture inside, and IndieWire spoke with the production designer for the series about how they made this and why they made it look like this. They said, while I was reading the script, I thought the name Pink Motel had significance. It felt as if the pink guards and the pink color kept overwhelming Gi-yeon. That is why I chose pink for the sofa the recruiter sits on, and I painted the Pink Motel doors in pink. I wanted them to signal Gi-yoon's fate and simply the beginning of the Squid Game. They went on to mention how this place doubling as his base of operations and where he sleeps has become cluttered and cramped to reflect his psychological state where he can never truly feel at ease, while the palm tree images on the bathroom window show the longing he has for his family in LA. The loan shark and his men have searched for the recruiter, or the salesman, I'll call him the recruiter for now, it sounds more sinister, and they've been searching for him for 2 years. We then get a montage of the men in their unsuccessful search for the recruiter until Usak and Kim find him. He's playing Dotchki and still slapping all those faces. The man that he's slapping the hell of right there is Lee Mung-yi, aka player 333, the crypto guy. He's getting a phone call from Kim Jung-e, aka player 222. He looks down at the calling card that reads 456034. Last season, the original number was 010034, and allegedly they had to change that woman's number in Korea because people kept trying to call her. But the 456 was Gi-yoon's number from the game 2 years ago, so the card must reflect the winner's number, or possibly the front man's just being an asshole. They watch the recruiter purchase 100 packages of bread and 100 lottery tickets. He then enters a park and offers the unhoused folks there a lottery ticket or bread. Most, if not all, choose the lottery ticket. Then the recruiter throws all the remaining bread on the ground, and then an unhoused man goes to pick it up and scolds him for wasting food. He says this:
Sir, I already gave you a choice, and you went with the other option.
I'm not the one here who wasted this.
That was you people.
Then he begins stomping out the bread. And this kind of feels like an insane scene to play out because you start to learn this man is legitimately insane and believes so deeply in what he's doing, like it has a purpose. The show's creator, Dong Hyuk-kwang, actually spoke on this scene in an interview. He explained, "I believe that Gong Yu's character, the salesman, is someone who lived in a difficult, tough, rock-bottom life just as much as those that are depicted as the homeless people in the series. And he is someone who's filled with self-hatred. It is expressed in the hatred he harbors for other humans. And by hating these people, he believes he is different from them." Hyung added, showing and expressing his hatred for the other people who choose lottery tickets instead of bread, almost as if he's trying to escape his own self-loathing nature, which makes the scene later of Russian roulette hit even extra harder. Kim and Yoo-suk fight the recruiter in an alleyway and are immediately then knocked out, and they wake up in a room bound to chairs and gagged, and the recruiter forces them to play a version of rock, paper, scissors mixed with Russian roulette. The song playing is Nessun Dorma, and it's sung by Paul Potts, and this man won the first season of Britain's Got Talent and is now the melody that plays during one of the most bloodiest scenes of this season. The series creator commented on this, telling Deadline, "I thought that if the recruiter plays the games, I kind of wanted this character to have a regular playlist that he would always be listening to." As for Nessun Dorma, that was sung by Paul Potts. It became immensely popular in Korea, and the last word of the song is Victoria, which is victory, and I thought that was very fitting for the game that was being played. This is also the game the internet picked up on very quickly, the hidden detail that the bullet was a dummy bullet, so it would have never gone off. When the recruiter reloads the gun the second round, he loads 4 bullets into the chamber, telling them that they now have 5 and 6 chances of dying, though he actually added 3 more dummy bullets and 1 real bullet, so they'd only actually have 1 in 6 chances of dying. A part of me did wonder, what if this was just a prop decision made by the prop team? Then I asked myself, why would the prop team put 1 real looking bullet amongst 5 clearly dummy ones? It wouldn't have mattered unless you wanted it to be known. And I believe the production team made one of the fake prop bullets look very real, showing how insane the recruiter is, and he gets this joy just from the control, watching them suffer and feeling better than them. That and showing the 2 men being bound to chairs with a dog bone shaped gag in their mouth like animals to him. And through all this stress and disbelief that he's gonna kill either one of them, unfortunately, the games end with Kim's death. Fortunately, he was still a lone shark killing people, so, you know. The recruiter finally confronts Gi-yoon, and he still has blood on his face coming directly from killing Kim. And it's also raining outside, so the fact that there's still blood on his face means he made sure he didn't wash it away. The recruiter then tells his story. He used to work at the games clearing and incinerating the bodies, and he goes on to describe the bodies he'd clean up.
There was a man who'd lost, and I went over to shoot him, but I recognized his face. My dad. I shot him, bang, right in the middle of his forehead. That's when I knew. I guess I really am cut out for this.
It's an entire arc in one episode, which is so phenomenal to me. I love this idea for the recruiter. So after not caring, the recruiter decides to play one last game of Russian roulette. This time he plays Time to Say Goodbye, sung by Andrea Bocelli and Sarah Brightman, which perfectly represents his final game in this world. As someone simply watching, I genuinely believe they'd kill Gi-yoon. And then we just follow someone else's story later. The series doesn't shy away from killing those that you love. I'll never get over Ollie's death last season. I was on the edge of my seat, and the fact that he even addressed the elephant in the room, the fact that he has the gun. He could have killed him right then and there and got this over with. However, it was the psychological chess game they both wanted to make each other endure that kept them going. They both weren't afraid of death. And this scene still feels so impactful with that bad audio quality of the Time to Say Goodbye even playing out loud from the speakers of the cell phone. It's an incredible scene. It feels like it's bred to make you feel crazy. And my last favorite moment from this scene is when the last thing we hear is Gi-yoon saying this.
All you do is put your little mask on and do whatever Master tells you to, because you're their f***ing dog.
And remember how I mentioned he bound those loan sharks and shoved that dog bone-shaped gags into their mouths and looked down upon them as he made them play his stupid little game? There's a comparison here to be made of what he does unto them. This is what Squid Game has done to him since the beginning. He is no different than the same dogs he looks down on. He is a dog, and he is the trash he swears to eliminate. They've mentioned animals a lot in this first episode. At the beginning, the man calls the parking enforcer a pig and tells the front man on the phone to stop hiding like a rat. This reminds me of how in the first season, the VIPs wore animal masks to hide their faces from their true violent nature, and maybe this is just a commentary on how we're just like them, but we're not trying to hide it. And then we go into episode 2 titled Halloween Party and picks up right where we left off outside the Pink Motel. Inside the recruiter's jacket, we find a card for the club HDH, which we later find out is a nightclub affiliated with the Squid Games, but also HDH could stand for the show creator's name because it's the same initials. We then welcome a new person, Kong Noel, who is asleep in their car and woken up by a police officer. In the car, there's a lot of alcohol, pills, and a picture of her family, family and her daughter. Later, we see that she's working as an entertainer at an amusement park. She wears a pink bunny costume and is sweet to kids. This clearly foreshadows her other pink costume as an enforcer during the games, and also the weird juxtaposition in her dual jobs. At the amusement park, she's got this soft spot for children because she's a mother. When everyone enters the dressing room, she's the only one unaffected by the heat in her outfit, and this is because her job is in full garb 24/7 killing people. She's also a sniper, so her attention is like a hawk when she notices this one little child left out. They both work hand-in-hand jobs. The little girl enters the dressing room with her little strawberry hat and hands the bunny a little picture that she drew, and it's very sweet. And we learn later that this child is sick and has cancer, and it's a really innocent note to grab, but in the drawing that she made for the bunny, she has hair, and I just think it's really sweet and sad and innocent, and it made me tear up. The little girl also makes note that the bunny has 2 slits across her wrist, implying that something worse is going on through her mind, and maybe the bottles of pills and alcohol, it's probably got something to do with her daughter. In hiding, Gi-yoon watches Sung-woo's mother and Chol. Chol then arrives and calls the woman grandma, and it's a really warm moment. If you don't remember, Sung-woo was the friend who kind of became the villain by the end of Squid Game last season, and Chol's sister is my girl from last season that lasted up until the end, until that villain killed her.
I need you to swear that you'll look after him.
We saw her brother in a couple episodes last season as well, but mainly in the finale, living at the orphanage, and Gi-yoon brings him to Sung-woo's mother so she can take care of him. She got like a replacement son, and he got like a replacement mom. But his mom is still alive, let's not forget that, or could be still alive. Sung-woo's mother has this fish market, and on the sign translated, it reads Sung-woo's fish market, so she's still thinking about her boy. Then he visits the broker who met with Sa Byok last season about freeing her mother. He tells him that the mother was recently released from a prison camp, and he urges the broker to get her out as soon as possible.
Everything goes back to the Wizard of Oz, right? New Rockstars puts out these videos that have me up here
like Oz, the Great and Powerful.
But when you peek behind the curtain, New Rockstars is a whole team of nerds pulling levers to make me shoot fire from my eyes and have my voice boom out dramatically and, I don't know, make SpongeBob memes pop up probably. The levers we and most YouTube professionals pull are all part of Adobe Creative Cloud. We use Premiere to put our videos together, Photoshop to make our thumbnails, and Illustrator to create our merch. You probably already knew how much professionals rely on Adobe Creative Cloud, but it's so accessible, so intuitive, and so easy to use that it's the perfect software suite for creatives at any level to get exactly what's in your brain out into the world, looking, sounding, and feeling exactly the way you want it to. No matter what you create, you owe it to yourself to have the best tools available to bring your vision to life, and that's what Adobe Creative Cloud is built to do. Click the link in the description below to get started with Adobe Creative Cloud to bring your creations to life.
Back with Newell, the broker is helping her find her daughter who might be dead. Later that evening, she sits in her car crying, looking at the photo of her daughter. Then a man knocks on her window, and it's not a police officer this time, but this man hands her the same card for the Squid Game. After signing her resignation with the amusement park, an ambulance drives past the cartoonist as he's drawing, and then he realizes it's for his unconscious daughter. All of this is happening in front of our girl's face, just watching the ambulance pull off, and she picks up the strawberry hat that the girl left behind. In an upsetting and weird observation that I can only make, the child's ambulance drives away, and one of the amusement park stands on the left has a sign with a squid on it. Is it foreshadowing? I hope it's not done in this way. Well, they're killing young people, but not children. Back at the Pink Motel, Gi-yoon replaces his tooth with a fake tracker. In the hospital, we see that there's a medicine that might help this little girl's cancer that she's dealing with. The sequence kind of just shows how her father can't afford the medicine, but when our girl arrives, she returns the strawberry hat and disappears into the night. Please help this little girl. If this little girl dies, I'm gonna be so mad. It's interesting watching a lot of what's happening right now in this episode because it's packed with weird farewells. Weird isn't the right word. They just don't know if this will be their last bout of living after returning to the Squid Games. The boys make it to the club dressed respectably for Halloween. Well, actually only one of them is, and it's a green horse, and the green horse immediately brought me to the money and how Gi-yoon would bet on horse racing back in the day. But remember, in season 1 episode 9, the frontman told him that the players were basically like horses and everyone bets on them, and this costume could symbolize that sentiment. Junho sees the pink guards enter the club, and Usuk follows the guards only to be cornered by the second guard. Gi-yoon follows the other pink guard to a white limo, and the frontman then talks to him in the limo through the golden pig. The gold pig basically imitates the translucent pig that we see full of gold money in the games. The frontman tells Gi-yoon the games will not end unless the world changes, and after a messy conversation, bombs exploding and guns firing, Gi-yoon demands to be put back in the game, which is an insane thing to do. Then the frontman agrees and releases that all too familiar gas that knocks our main guy out, and the last thing he sees is the frontman frontman's black mask and his welcoming to the game. And in weird news, Newell drives to the meeting location and enters a shipping container after leaving her car. She then reaches a room reading 011, takes her place, pulls down her mask, then surprise, surprise, she's entering the game as a pink guard, not even as a player! This game and this show gets me so riled up. When I got that reveal, I said, girl, I saw this coming, but I was hoping I was wrong. I was hoping I was wrong. I was praying I was wrong. And then she shows up as the guard. The third episode is titled 001, and we're back in the games. Gi-yun re-enters the game as player 456 and is back in that dormitory. I would be having a panic attack. This is literally PTSD. The set is much bigger than it was in season 1, and that's because they have much more room to play this season. They expanded the dorm's height and width by 330 square meters. He wakes up the player 044, the shaman, staring him directly in the eyes. Then we meet a few other players, and it's like Squid Game season 1 all over again. We never left. It's the same game and the same uniforms and the same bunk beds. We meet player 120, aka Hunju, who is playing to get money to finish their gender-affirming surgery. People theorize this character could be based off the real trans ex-soldier named Byun-hee-soo, who was discharged from the South Korean army after transitioning. The woman was unfortunately found dead in her home in March of 2021, 7 months before the courts ruled the discharge as unlawful discrimination. And we don't know if she's based on that character solely, but there's a chance. We'll meet player 333, played by Eun-suan, one of many former K-pop stars this season. He's a crypto influencer who ran his own and his followers' wealth into the ground. It seems cryptocurrency scams are a huge problem in South Korea, and some involving popular YouTubers helping to promote these scams. In November alone, South Korean police arrested 215 people concerning a huge crypto scam. Player 388, played by Kang Yul, is one of my favorites until the very end, until the very last second, but I'm sure he has his reasons, and I'm standing by it. He's the sweet Marine, always ready to fight for his team. Player 246, played by Lee Junuk, is a loving father, a great guy, and the cartoonist we saw earlier. 007, played by Yang Dong-gun, is in debt due to gambling, and whose mother is also in the games. 149, played by Kang Aejim, is the mother to player 007, and she is the sweetest woman, and God forbid this woman dies, but they like doing that. They love killing off the innocent sweet old ladies, and I don't know why. Player 390, played by Lee Swon, who appeared last season. He's a longtime friend of Gi-yoon's. 222, played by Jo Yuri, another K-pop star, is in her drama debut in this one, so good for her. Player 125, played by E. David, who actually appeared in The Six Finger with Lee Jung-yi, and Squid Game creators The Fortress with Lee Byung-hun. Player 124, played by Ro Jae-won, a former club promoter. The actor also starred in a K-drama romance show I really like called Daily Dose of Sunshine. And my favorite character, and I know I shouldn't love him, I'm sorry, player 230, played by Chae Sung-young, aka T.O.P., aka Thanos. He's a rapper and joins the Squid Game after losing his money in a failed crypto investment. Now, what I like about this character is that his nail polish is also that of Thanos' rings on his gauntlet, and also he has purple hair like Thanos' skin. Clearly, he's a fan of the cinematic universe, and so am I. So we should be best friends. Additionally, the actor, if you haven't already heard, is a former member and rapper of the K-pop group Big Bang, and in 2017, he was handed a 10-month suspended prison sentence with 2 years probation for smoking marijuana several times, and due to the public backlash he received over his marijuana scandal, he announced his retirement from the entertainment industry. Fast forward to Squid Game season 2, his casting shocked many and started a little bit of a controversy in Korea, but let me tell you, I love him. He also at times will speak in bouts of English, and that's something common in Korean rap and hip-hop songs, so most people assume he's doing it because of that. Player 380, played by Won Jian, she's kind of a badass, though I do like that she manipulates the annoying jock boy, so I loved her until, you know, the demise. When they begin playing the first game, we recognize and revisit the red light, green light, which brings back the giant motion detecting doll. When the game begins, Gi-yeon tries to warn everyone that they will die because that's always an unfortunate surprise when playing this game, and surprise, surprise, no one listens to him. No one believes him. The psychology of humanity and how we act, I would have been like, this man's probably right. I mean, what's the harm in believing that we might die here? This is all fine and good until a bee lands on this woman's neck and she screams out of fear. And this is weird because indoors, why is there a bee? Was this a rigged move by the game? At the end of the game, it's revealed that the ceiling starts closing in on them. So perhaps the ceiling was always open, allowing insects through, though it's still kind of a weird move to see a bee come out of nowhere. And of course, we see our girl again, this time sniping players, starting with 066, then taking out 188, and then she spots player 246 and notices it's the young girl's father. Then she moves past him later and proceeds to kill player 237. I don't know if my girl has remorse. The front man starts playing Fly Me to the Moon from the robot that we saw from season 1, and the creator of the show said that they added this song to contrast between the brutal killing of the players last season, and the same seems like it's done here. We then learn that Thanos has this reckless attitude and confidence because our man is literally popping Percocets through the game. How did he bring that necklace into the game? Well, people online suggest this is due to the people running the game wanting to make it more fun and interesting. When Thanos immediately knocks over a bunch of people like an asshole, they play another cover of Fly Me to the Moon, and I really love this cover. At the end of the game, Newell packs her gun and leaves for her room number 11. And I like it a lot in season 2. The hierarchy within the Pink Guards is explored. We see the masked soldiers dormitory, the weapon storage, and masked manager's dormitory as well. And sometimes I forget they're separated into different ranks. And the production designer wanted to show that through the expanded world building that they're doing this season. And honestly, it's a great touch. I could watch this forever. Now that the gunfire is over, everyone is like, oh, so this isn't a normal game. They're allowed to vote to stay or leave, and surprise, they just want one more game because they don't take life seriously. This is what the recruiter was talking about. Oh no, I'm on the side of the recruiter. Oh. But it's revealed there's a new player coming in, 001, and it's the front man who has his hair done just like Sung Woo's. He's trying to throw Gi-hun off of his game to distract him deliberately. The world in which Squid Game is more about psychological warfare than actual childlike games is baffling to me. Additionally, the internet already pointed out that in season 1, each game for the next episode was already on the walls. It was designed like little kid instructions. In season 2, on the walls of this episode, it's children swinging on a jungle gym perhaps. This could be literal and tell us that the next season we'll see them swinging to their deaths, or it could be metaphorical, just signifying that this children's playground and the six-legged race is the next game that we're going to be seeing. There's also a wall with checkerboards and upside down crosses, and people theorize this could be Jangi, which is like a Korean version of Chinese checkers. But there's also writing on that wall behind the beds. The writing was also featured in season 2's premiere in Seoul. And in an interview with Geek Ireland, they described the massive mosaic on the wall depicting a Latin message spelling this. You know I can't speak Latin. It says this, meaning today it's me, tomorrow it will be you. Girl, shut up. This is so sinister to me. This feels like the writing on the wall is just telling those like, hey, you'll die, and then the next you will be here tomorrow, and you're all nothing. Doesn't matter who you are. Another one will come here. What? Like they're pieces? Like you can just throw them away? Why did the production team go so hard into hating these people? In episode 4, titled 6 Legs, we play a new little game, which might be the only game I could be good at. But if you team me up to play this game with new Rockstars, we'd all lose because Erik is clumsy. On the night of 6 Legs, Gi-hun and the front man have a discussion where he claims his wife has fallen ill and needs a liver transplant. This would have probably happened during 2015 when he was a player in the games. He's telling him his unfortunate story about trying to save his wife, and in this discussion it feels like he's trying to show him that the world will never be helpful even when you need it. Money will always be a bribe, and perhaps life in itself is an endless and useless transaction. I didn't mean to be so sad. Back with the Pink Guards, we learn that they're harvesting people's organs and trafficking them, and we saw this last season in episode 5. We don't know when or why this operation started, but I assume it's a way for the masked men to get some extra money. The front man is aware of this also happening. He acknowledged it in episode 5. He clearly stated, whether you sell the dead bodies, organs, or eat them or whatever, I don't give a damn. Heartless. Fortunately, I guess Noel notices what they're doing and double taps the people so they don't get their organs harvested, so I guess that's nice of her to do. She could just save them instead of shooting me in the arm. The second game is a pentathlon of child games that started with the idea of a sports day, and according to the production designer, it's like a field day. It's something that all elementary school students will play, so it's designed to look like an elementary school yard. This is why I think the jungle gym on the walls was meant to just convey this map. It's also designed to align with the playground from the second game in the first season. A sky with clouds drawn by crayons and a floor with packed dirt. I also like the added note the designer made in their interview that they aim to create the game's arenas that would reflect the memories and imagination of the front man, imagining spaces his lost family would have loved to visit. The 5th episode is titled One More Game and begins where we last left off in the pentathlon. I love that in this season, everyone is rooting for each other rather than damning their victories. And I love that the front man truly forgot where he was for a moment and is cheering louder than anyone else in the room. Some small facts that I love behind the scenes: player 388's actor actually practiced to be really good at Gongi, and then they brought in an expert anyway, and it was filmed instead and spliced to make it look like he did it. So I feel bad for the actor, but I bet he's good. The actress who plays Carrion character 222 said she practiced dodgeball non-stop on set, but she just couldn't do it on the day of the shoot, so they had to do someone else, and I'm sorry, girl. One of the most prominent details easily missed was recognizing the frontman was doing bad on purpose, like the recruiter, which I assumed to cause stress or come off as more believable. In the beginning, he takes off his mask and drinks with his left hand, watching red light, green light. Last season, we saw him shoot his brother with his left hand, so it's clearly his dominant hand. So he was doing this as a bit, and everything is clearly calculated with this man. So much so that his team is the last to perform. And I'm 100% sure it's in case they all failed, because 001 could just step away and everyone in the dorms would believe the entire team failed and was executed, and he could go back to his position as the frontman. Back with the surviving players, they're having a small discussion about coming over and having dinner after the games because they live so close together. They also note they live so close and whether that's a coincidence or not.
Good. My house is a 30-minute bus ride from you. How on earth did we all end up living so close? That can't be a coincidence. This is fate. I mean, isn't that crazy?
This would probably be done on purpose because it would make more sense for the recruiter to go to poorer neighborhoods to seek people desperate for financial assistance. We also get a conversation with the front man who says that their name is Young Ill, which I could call him, but I will continue referring to him as the front man because we know damn well who he is. He introduces himself saying his name translates to 01, like his number on his shirt, and still our main character isn't suspicious. They vote again on whether to leave or stay, and guess what? They stay again. Everyone then eats in their respective corners after receiving their sullen little school lunches. Then we get this milk scene. In season 1, Gi-yeon offered his milk to Ali, saying he couldn't drink milk, and now the front man is doing the same thing to player 222, saying he couldn't drink milk either. And I believe this is completely a psychological tactic and done on purpose. Now we're at the next game, the one I would honestly do god awful at because it's just a strength and like speed kind of competition, which I do not have. This is the carousel, aka Mingle. The designer said this was done to present a world that is both beautifully and eerily spinning like a festival of death. How sweet. Also, Thanos dancing is my favorite piece of content that has been brought from this show to the internet. Episode 6 is titled OX, and we're playing the carousel game, and it's still full of nothing but stress. The first number given is 10 players, which leaves a lot of our star teams splitting up and adding more random people. This is where we start to incorporate players like 246 and bitch-ass player 333. We also get less of Thanos' BFF, 256, who, high as hell off the perks, kicks him straight in the torso for getting what he's done. And unfortunately, we lose player 120, my sweet baby young me, who y'all forced to stay. At one point, the front man disappears and we don't know what room he enters, if any. He might have just shown his face to the guards directly and survived outside the room. He also instigated with the old lady to get her to hate her son and knew the game numbers before they were announced. And no one in the room is suspicious, except for, you know, that one friend after he breaks that man's neck. So no one was suspicious 2 games ago. Also, not to be that person, but an army would have to pull me away from my mom. Boy, I'm dead. We're both dead. Me and my mom. We're going at it. At one point in the game, Thanos makes 2 people play rock, paper, scissors to see who survives. And man, is he becoming the recruiter or what? I feel like, yes, this is an easy way to figure out who goes and who doesn't, but also another game where one survives feeling guilty and the other is doomed and wasn't really even playing to begin with. After losing even more people, the vote ends in a tie, and to ensure everyone has enough time to reconsider their votes, they plan to conduct the next round of votes tomorrow. Then they're giving Gimbap for a meal along with forks, which in my opinion was immediately crazy because I love gimbap and I have never eaten that meal with a fork. They also give them glass bottles, so they're just asking for people to get stabbed. They wanted exactly what happened at the dinner scene from season 1, which encourages them all to kill each other. That close up on our main character's face after recognizing they just gave him a fork, he was immediately transported with PTSD. He remembered what happened. And then Thanos gets stabbed straight in the neck. My boy gets stabbed with a fork. And Thanos from Marvel was never really stabbed in the throat, but Thor did decapitate him, so close enough. The final episode of season 2 is called Friend or Foe. Now, we haven't talked much about them since returning to the island, but we learned that Sea Captain Park is actually a double agent sabotaging Junho's team, so, you know, that's great. After the bloody brawl in the bathroom, 5 men were killed in the aftermath. Now, after forming 2 completely different sides, now officially, you know, like X's and O's, Gi-yoon anticipates more bloodshed and comes up with a plan to attack the guards, get their weapons, capture the front man, and then ending the games. During the planning, the group has a conversation that looks like this.
Where are they? They're up there.
And if you notice, everyone looks up quizzically except for the front man. He looks up and swiftly looks back down at Gi-yoon. And I think the only thing that upsets me this season is how oblivious my boy is. Red flags everywhere. When the lights go out, the bloodshed begins. This quickly begins the downfall and spiral, which is very reminiscent of the last games. Gi-yoon's group stays hidden under their beds, unfortunately allowing a lot of their comrades to die. And after a large chunk of them die, the masked men finally show up to break up the battle, and that's when the group hidden under the beds jump up at the soldiers and get their submachine guns. While they're checking out their weapons, Gi-yoon thanks the front man for helping him and says this:
After this is over, buy me a drink.
If you remember in the first season, player 001 had a drink with Gi-yoon after getting out the first time, and it may be a coincidence, but I also think nothing is spared in this lunatic's behavior. Then starts the real war, with about 12 fighters that exit the dorms and enter the colorful stairwell, where several soldiers are about to attack them. They reach the management area where the child soldier tells them that they need a mask to bypass security. After reaching down for that mask, he notices player 001 as the front man, and without hesitation, he's promptly murdered, shot in the head. Yeah, no justice. Gi-yoon and Jung-bae head to the control room, and the two find the security door that allows them to pass using the dead soldier's mask. Then they're attacked by two other soldiers, of course, because they can't catch a break. Notice how this part of the map is purple, which was done intentionally for its symbolic meaning. Purple is the color of ultimate power, so it's leading the path to the man with the most power, the front man. Back in the stairwell, the other players are still in their standoff with the soldiers. Dio is struggling with what might be PTSD and can't find the strength to fight, and both teams are running low on ammo and their numbers are dwindling. Back in the dorms, he's arrived to get more ammo, and scared, shaking, on his way out, hearing all the shooting, he freezes, and Hunju keeps radioing him and he's not answering, so she thinks he's dead. And to her surprise, when she gets there, he's just shaken up. And then she's stopped by the old lady because the guards have arrived and this battle ain't worth fighting anymore. The front man and the others get behind the masked men near the control room and ready to ambush them, but then he turns on them and shoots player 47 and player 15, and then he calls Gi-yoon and fakes his own death. This man is calculating. He then changes his radio channel and tells the guards to start wrapping this shit up, and 324 then shoots himself in the head once the ambush starts closing in, and player 145 then gets shot after attempting to surrender, showing it didn't really matter what side they choose after all of this. Then we watch 246 presumably get shot. We don't know yet. He might still be alive. They've been trying to harvest organs left and right, and this feels like the perfect setup to keep him alive and Noel to save him. Gi-yoon and Jung-bae then surrender after running out of ammo. Now kneeling in front of the front man, he pulls the gun on Jung-bae and shoots my man right in his chest. This failed riot left Gi-yoon worse off than when he entered, and like that, the season just ends. Yeah, that's the end. Do you know how mad I was to learn that that was the end? When the trailer for season 2 started playing after the credits, I said, no, where's episode 8? This is the biggest cliffhanger, and there's absolutely more to come, but luckily we'll start season 3 with immediate chaos. Thanks for watching my breakdown. Sorry it's not as long as we might have hoped. I only had so much time to write it, and clearly I was more pissed than I was passionate. Go follow me at Lulu_Clemons, subscribe to all 3 channels in the new Rockstars network for more analysis, breakdowns, and news coverage within all your favorite fandoms, and I'll see you guys later. Green light. Red light.